What's going on, tech heads? This is Josh again with Techtopia TV, and today I'm going to talk about the PerGear 360 swivel ball head. Alright, so first things first, this is a really good ball head it's cheap. It's definitely a cheap ball head, but it's really nice for photography or videography. So me personally, I use it more for videography than I do photography, but I have used it for photography. So it's the first thing is that you have all these adjustments on here. You have all these different knobs. So you loosen up the larger knob and the smaller knob, and now you're free to move this around as much as you need to really get a good angle on whatever shot or whatever you're taking a photo of or video of. So another thing is it has this little notch cut out here. So that way, if you need to, you can flip it up 90 degrees. So if you need to, you can flip your either photo tripod or your video head, whatever it is that you're using, you can flip it over onto the side to get even more angles, so you're never really limited on what you can do. So that is really nice. I've actually used it several times whenever I'm using my slider, which is what I bought this for, was for my slider. I plan on getting a actual fluid tripod head that's not a half ball mount. I want one that's just a flat mount. So that way I don't have to have the hi-hat on it and everything else, because having the hi-hat on the slider really kicks the height up of the camera, and I don't really want it to be like that. I would prefer it to just have a flat base, like I think the Manfrotto 502 fluid head, I think, is a flat base. So if I needed to, that's probably the route that I would go. Now, the big thing here is that, like I said, you have all these different adjustments. You have this big knob here, which allows you to lock it and unlock it. Then you have this other knob here, which I haven't really quite figured out exactly what the difference between these two knobs are, because if you loosen up this one and this one stays tight, you still can't move it, even though this is loose. If you tighten this one, but loosen up this one, you still can't move it. But you kind of tighten them together. It's really weird, but I haven't really quite figured out why you would want to tighten this one but leave this one loose, because it's still locked. There's nothing you can do. It's still extremely tight and locked in there, even though this one's loose and this one's tight. So I don't really understand. I guess the only thing I can think of is that maybe if you just tighten up this one by itself, maybe it's not quite tight enough. I don't know. So another thing is that it has a typical standard 3/8 inch mount on the bottom of it. So that way you can put it on tripods, you can put it on a slider like I have here, and the adapter to go from 1/4 inch to 3/8. If your tripod has just a 1/4 inch, it looks similar to this. Let me take it off my slider. So it looks like this. It's literally just a barrel with threads on it. And so that way it allows you to adapt from a 1/4 inch down to or up to, I guess, a 3/8 inch for this to mount onto. So that's really nice that you have that option to be able to do that. Now, I believe, if I rightly remember, that the ball head came with the adapter. I don't think it came on my tripod or on my slider. I think it came with the tripod mount, or maybe it didn't. I can't quite remember. I'll probably have some text up there, because I'll do some research, because I completely forgot about that, and I'll see if it actually came with it or not. So if it did come with it, you're seeing it on the screen now that it did come with it. So it also has a bubble level here. So the bubble level is nice, because obviously you want to make sure that your shots are level. You don't want to start shooting video and then have it be completely off. So that's another good thing there. Now, one thing I do like about this ball head is that you do have a quick release plate. So that comes in handy. You just undo this little bit here and it slides off. It has the catches on it, which if you know anything about video equipment, you know that these things on a removable plate is really nice. It has the little screw heads that come out here to keep it from sliding off. So even if you loosen it up, I mean, it's only gonna work so well. You can't really rely on it. If you're having it at a crazy angle, it's still going to slide off. So keep that in mind. But if you have the weight of your camera and you're at an angle like this and you loosen up, it's going to stay. It's not going anywhere, especially if you have the weight of the camera on it. So make sure you pay attention to that. So it has the typical, you know, little flip out bit, so that way you can thread it into the camera, 1/4 inch, like normal, like any other standard tripod. And it also has the head of a common screwdriver. And works really well though. I haven't had any issues with it. I can put it onto my camera with no problem and it stays there with zero issue. It does allow for a little bit of movement here for balancing it properly. The other thing is down here on the bottom, I don't know how well you'll be able to see it, but down here on the bottom it has this little opening here, and if you loosen up this bottom part, you can actually swivel the whole thing at the base. So you see that this piece right here, this little cutout, isn't moving. So the whole base swivels down here at the bottom, which is really handy as well because it has it in degrees. I mean, it goes all the way up to, let's see, it goes from 0 to 30, 60, 90, 120, 150, 180, then back down to 150, 120, and it just goes the opposite way. So it's really nice to be able to swivel. I mean, the amount of adjustment on this little tiny thing is amazing. It weighs about 14 ounces. I mean, it's about 4 inches tall, I'd say, maybe 5 inches tall. And it can hold a load of, I think it was 8 kilograms, which if you're in America, that's roughly 17 pounds, which is a lot of weight. I probably wouldn't trust putting 17 pounds of equipment on this little tiny thing. But if you got a nice telephoto lens or you have in a larger body, I don't see why you would have a problem. On their website, I know that they show people using it for like time-lapse photography and stuff, so you can angle it up at the sky, maybe put it on one of your motorized sliders if you have one of those, or one that you can set to where it moves in increments, so that way you can get some nice, time-lapse of it panning across with the stars and the galaxy and all that kind of stuff. So that'd be kind of cool to be able to do. I'd really love to be able to do that, but where I live, it's a little too bright at night, so I think there'd be a lot of garbage in the sky to really get a good night shot. So what I use it on is my Camera slider. Now this is what I bought it for, and then once I bought it for this, I mean it can pan smooth, like if you're trying to get it to like where you're panning across and then also angling it at something to get some nice smooth pan shots of B-roll or of a product or something like that. It pans nice, but it's nowhere near as smooth as a video head, obviously. And the other part about it is that there's no handle on it, so it's kind of, you don't really have good leverage. So I'll just show you real fast. So it's got like I said, this Camera slider has a 1/4 inch on it, so I have the adapter to go from 1/4 inch to 3/8 inch. So if I put this on here, let me twist it around a bunch of times until it locks into place. All right, so now it's locked in. I'll go ahead and loosen this bit up so that way I can turn it around and aim it kind of towards the camera. So now you have it on the slider. So here it is on the slider. Now the big thing is that now what you have is you can loosen up these ends to where this can swivel. But now it can swivel down, up, all over the place, so that's not really that clean, if you know what I mean. And so now you really have to be really careful. So if you're holding your camera and you're like aiming at something, you can kind of pivot it and you can kind of rotate it around, but it's still kind of moving like this at the same time. So if you're really, really steady, then it'll obviously work just fine. But for me, I'm not that steady. I probably should be practicing on it, but I mean, I could see holding the camera. I used it in my PC cleaning video. If you ever watched that one, I used this ball head and tried to get some pans to where I kept it on the object as I was panning across. So then you have that nice movement this way, but you're keeping the object in the center as well. It really adds a lot to the video, more than you'd think it would. So it is fairly smooth. It's definitely not the smoothest. It's definitely not even compared to, you can't even compare it to a fluid head. So you know, just keep that in mind. But overall, I would have to say this thing is actually pretty nice for having the two different bubble levels on it. So that way, no matter what angle you're at, you can tell that you are indeed level on, you know, level for the shot that you're taking. So I can't remember exactly how much this thing was. I'll put the link to it in the description for Amazon or B&H Photo or something. I'm not really too sure. I believe I picked this one up at Amazon. But overall, I'd have to say it's definitely worth the money because I'm pretty sure it was cheap, like $10, $15, maybe less. So definitely pick one of these up if you need something similar to this, because I definitely think that it's worth it. And please like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next video.